the anime fan is, I don't know, I just want to call them the original fan, because I feel like the OG, because some of the stuff we do at these conventions, you know, has been happening in the anime world for a long time, even before anime was in on these big Comic-Con type conventions, you know?
Please welcome to the stage Elizabeth Maxwell, David Matranga, and Lindsay Seidel.
This is a large couch. We can do this.
There you go. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Jason couldn't join us. Got some food poisoning from what I hear.
Yeah.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah, he wasn't able to get on the plane yesterday, unfortunately.
I think the last time I saw you guys, you had food poisoning.
Yes.
You definitely don't want to get on a plane with food poisoning. No. Yeah, not fun.
A very unfortunate tradition. Let's not get that started. Yeah. Well, we thank you for being here. You know, we just had the great Phil Lamar on stage talking about his long and illustrious voice acting career, and so it's so awesome to be able to continue this tradition and to just talk through, you know, voice acting. And so,
thank you.
We're gonna have a chance to, you know, I'm gonna ask this incredible cast some questions, and then in a few minutes we'll turn it over to the audience. And so I think there's some microphones over here and over here. So in a moment we'll go to those. And so if you have a question, you can start lining up. So
may I interject something really quick? So pretty much the only reason that I'm still on Facebook is for moments like this, when I found out that it is a certain somebody on this panel's, well, the day after her birthday. So can we all just say a big happy birthday to Lindsay really quick?
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday!
Thank you. Yeah, I love birthday.
Well, you're spending it traveling. Have you had a chance to do anything fun for your birthday, or?
So I flew in on my birthday. So I spent a good chunk at the airport, but that's fine.
Always fun.
So I mostly celebrated the day before my birthday with my family, and it was nothing fancy. I have a 1-year-old child at home, so I have my husband and my little boy, and I went to my parents' house, and we just had a little family party, and it was the best because my son sang happy birthday. Not very well. But it was the cutest thing ever. And
Did you take a video of it?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'll put this down here.
Yes, we do have video of it, and I can't stop watching it because I think it's the cutest thing in the world.
Does anyone really sing happy birthday well?
Not me.
I feel like for how ubiquitous that song is, it was like everybody sounds awful singing it.
Yeah.
And the rights to Happy Birthday are really expensive, which is why you see in movies a lot for he's a jolly good fellow, or she, or they, or whatever, because they're like, I'm not going to pay for the rights to sing Happy Birthday.
Someone owns the rights to Happy Birthday. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Do they have a lot of money?
They must.
They must, I guess. Who knows? I wish I knew who it was.
Well, hey, let's get started here. You know, the road to, like, as we talked with Phil, like, the road to getting to voice acting is such a weird and unpredictable, and it's a journey that, like, not a lot of people at a young age kind of seek out. And so let's just kind of go along. Elizabeth, let's start with you. And, like, how in the world did you kind of get into the world of voice acting?
Well, I've wanted to be an actor since I popped out of the womb, if you ask my parents. But, you know, kind of was tunnel visioned on, you know, film and TV for a large part of my young life. And I went to college, got a BFA in theater, and was living in LA, pursuing on-camera work. And I ended up moving to Texas for personal reasons. And
right. Go Texas. I
grew up in Texas. Go Austin.
Where'd you grow up? Sorry.
Dallas.
Oh, okay.
And I knew in that move that I kind of needed to, like, be more creative and think outside the box if I wanted to continue to make a living as a performer. And I was hanging out with some friends and, you know, kind of talking about this, and they were like, well, you know, Elizabeth, you have the acting training, you play video games and you watch anime, and you've got a good voice, like, why don't you do voiceover? And it was kind of one of those, like, how have I never thought of that before moments. So I did a bunch of research, put together a demo reel of my own and started just kind of cold calling companies within a certain radius of where I lived that I knew hired voice actors. And turns out that Texas is actually a great place to move to if you want to become a voice actor. I was very lucky. So
Why is that?
because Funimation, well, now Crunchyroll,
Get it right, Elizabeth.
is based in Dallas. Gearbox is in Dallas. There were a couple of studios based out of Austin that did video game work. So there was actually like a decent, considering the fact that it's not LA and it's not New York, there was a lot of opportunity for people starting out. So
We do have a special gift from Crunchyroll for all you guys. Let's hear it for Crunchyroll. Woo! Yeah, all right. So I'll tell you about that a little bit later. So, all right. And Lindsay, how about yourself?
Yeah, so similarly to Elizabeth, I have wanted to be an actor from the time I popped out of the womb. And I got my start acting professionally when I was about 10 years old. And I don't know that I really knew too much about voiceover. So similarly, again, my focus was on film and TV, on-camera work, but the talent agency representing me asked if I would also be interested in auditioning for voiceover work as well. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll take anything. And coincidentally, my very first professional acting job at the age of 10 was a voiceover job, and it was for a Japanese company that was producing the audio companion to these textbooks for kids in Japan learning English in school. And so it was like the audio that would go with the textbooks, so they could hear, how the words were supposed to be pronounced and whatnot. And so, yeah, that was my very first acting job and also my very first voiceover job. But I didn't get my start with the anime video game world side of things until several years later. I went on my first audition at what was then not Crunchyroll, what was then Funimation. Now it's Crunchyroll. When I was 17. So because I was under 18, my mom had to sign the contract for me. And then it just kind of, from there, very quickly ended up becoming my bread and butter, and it ended up becoming, the vast majority of what I did and still do. I still do on-camera stuff. There's just not nearly as much work in Texas for on-camera as there is for voiceover. I love doing both equally, although what is great about voiceover is I don't have to worry about how my hair looks or what I'm wearing, or so that there is a perk there. But yeah, so.
Right
Yeah,
on.
mine's kind of similar. I found acting in middle school and continued to do it in high school, and really fell in love with it. Fell in love with being a part of a story in some way, taking on a character. I knew it was something I wanted to do, so I went to college for it and studied, trained, and somewhere in college, I had the similar thought to Elizabeth. I was like, I really want to do this with my life. How can I diversify my opportunities, And I had a friend, and we thought, well, what about voiceover, So I don't know how my 19-year-old self did this, but the two of us got together and we were like, who's interested in voiceover in our college? And 15, 20 people raised their hand, and so we raised money from people. We brought a guy from LA who came and trained us on voiceover. I made a demo, and then once I graduated, got an agent and started auditioning for all kinds of stuff, and did some commercial voiceover first, and then got an audition for an anime and booked that, and doing it ever since.
what was your first anime?
My first anime was called Sorcerer, Stabber, Orphan, better known as Orphan. It was a lead role, 2 seasons, 50 episodes right out of the bat.
Your first role? I hate you.
I never
love
did.
you,
I never did any Walla, any bits, And I tell
he's
people
that good, ladies and gentlemen.
No,
David Matranga.
I tell people a lot, when they ask me about, this journey, I was like, just like both of you guys, I felt confident as an actor because I had that training already, and I had done a bunch of professional stage already, and so I was able to kind of, you know, pick it up in the booth and figure out what that was. But yeah.
Sorry, do you mind if I ask her what her first anime was?
Absolutely.
So my first session at Funimation was for 2 different shows, but don't get excited. They were like it was bit parts. It was not like David's situation.
Which doesn't really, probably never happens anymore. I don't even know if that
The only
happens.
other person I can think of who I know of who
That was forever
I think was Micah Solosad's first role in Soul Eater. Was that his first?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, it was Bamboo Blade and Dragonaut. 2 shows that I'm sure none of you have ever heard of. Yeah.
Cool. How about you? What was your first role?
Well, funny enough, considering what panel we're on, it was Attack on Titan.
Oh, there you go.
What? How did I not know that?
Yeah.
I know. I just found this out like a couple weekends ago. I was like, I did not know
Okay,
that.
well, that's still a really big deal, though.
No,
for
I
that
mean,
to
it
be-
was awesome.
Yeah.
But it's to show you how out of touch with like this that I was. I went in on I auditioned, and when you audition for an anime, you usually audition for multiple characters in the show that kind of represent the different archetypes of characters, right? So I read for Trina's Mikasa, I read for Annie, I read for Sasha, I read for Ymir. And back in those days, the directors used to call you when you booked something. And so I got a call from Mike McFarland, and I remember thinking like, what if I booked Mikasa? I did not. But I am very glad I booked the character that I did, because I love her to death.
Well, you know, on this couch we have so many different animes represented, from Dragon Ball Z and My Hero, and of course Attack on Titan, and much more. The world of anime is nothing short of being overwhelming, right? I mean, it is an extremely wide and deep culture and content and everything about it. Did any of you grow up watching anime? And if not, how was that transition of just jumping into this crazy world?
I barely knew what anime was before I even went and auditioned at Funimation. I think the only anime that I was even vaguely familiar with at that time was Sailor Moon and Pokemon, but I'd never watched either of them. I just knew that they existed. So I had no idea how vast the anime world was until I started working on shows at Funimation, and I was like, whoa, I had no idea that there were so many shows within the anime world, and that there were so many people who watched it. And obviously since then, because that was 15-ish years ago, it's grown so much. The fan base has grown so much since then. But yeah, it's just going in and auditioning that one day opened my eyes to this whole amazing world that I had no idea really existed. So it was really cool.
I'm gonna age myself, but as I mentioned, I grew up watching anime, but this was back in the day. My brother was in anime club in his junior high, and he would sneak home the VHS tapes for me to watch, because there was no Crunchyroll, there was no Funimation, there was no streaming, and it was very much not cool. None of my friends would watch it with me. I would just sit up in the loft and watch it by myself because my brother had already seen it.
Do you remember some of those early titles?
Yeah, the very first anime I ever saw was the Ghost in the Shell movie.
Yeah.
And then some of the other first ones were Escaflowne and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And still 2 of my favorites. 3 of my favorites, I guess. But yeah, so it's changed a lot since I first started
There's so
watching.
much content out there now.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say that I was a regular anime watcher as a kid. I watched stuff here and there that I didn't know was anime, like Akira. There was Dragon Ball stuff I watched, even old reruns of Speed Racer. So I but I didn't know at the time, oh, this is anime. I don't know why I didn't, but I just wasn't, I feel like that about a lot of people too today, that back then I didn't even think about the voices, the people behind the voices. I thought that's just the voice, and I think it's interesting that there's a trend of people listening to voices specifically and then looking up the person and then cross-referencing and like, oh my God, they're in this too. And so yeah, it was something I was exposed to, I guess, but it wasn't something I sought out really. But then, once I got into it, I really just had a journey with the art form itself and was excited to get to be acting and getting paid to do fun stuff and stuff that I wasn't limited by what I looked like or whatever. And yeah, so I've been on an anime journey kind of as I've been involved in the industry.
I remember growing up in Texas, I was a big fan of like Robotech and Star Blazers. And, Speed Racer and Battle of the Planets, and because there was a very limited amount of anime that was available on network TV.
Right.
And I remember telling my friends, my white friends, I was like, I promise you, there's like this whole world of stuff just like this on the other side of the planet, just like an endless amount of content. They didn't believe me because it wasn't available, of course, at that time. And then now it's like everyone's exposed to it. It's at every con, and it's like all these. It's prolific, really, as it is. As you've encountered, you've seen, these anime fans they're fanatical and they're intense. Have you,
passionate.
Very passionate. Have you experienced a difference between anime fans and fans of some of the other work that you've done? Like, is there like a difference to you? Like, what's been your experience with anime fans in general?
I think anime fans are like, this may be way off base, but like the original fan. I feel like they created fandom in a way. Because I know that's not true, but anime fans are loyal to the properties that they love, to the voice actors that they love. I don't know if I see a difference between, fans of other stuff that I've done or of anime, but I do think that like the anime fan is, I don't know, I just want to call them the original fan because I feel like some of the stuff we do at these conventions, has been happening in the anime world for a long time, even before anime was in on these big Comic-Con type conventions, So, I'm grateful to everybody who comes up and we get to have a great conversation about a show that impacts them or what it meant to them. I remember going to my first convention, because for a while I was doing anime, but I was also doing a lot of professional stage work, so I wasn't able to really go to conventions. And the first one I went to was a small convention. I was at a panel. It was a solo panel, and everyone started talking about this one title. And I literally had no idea that show had such an impact on people. And I feel like every convention, somehow that happens. We have a great conversation. But I didn't really answer your question, but they're the OG fan.
Well, if you've got questions, there's microphones here. I'm going to keep going until I see someone at these microphones. So let's talk about Attack on Titan. This is like the 10th year for Attack, and there's been so many.
10 years.
Yeah, 2013.
There's been so many incredible different types of shows, but Attack on Titan is very special, and it's so unique in its perspective, its storytelling, its characters. In your opinion, like, why do you feel like Attack on Titan has endured over 10 years? Like, what do you feel like has made it special apart from the sea of other anime shows that are out there? What do you think?
Yeah. Go ahead if you want.
No, your voice came out first.
I don't. I don't know if I know how to put it into words exactly. I think that it has to do with, it's very rare for any creative act to really come together and hit and land. And all the things kind of have to be right, and there's got to be a little bit of magic in there somehow. And I think Attack on Titan did that. I think the animation style, the story, the intensity of the story, but the human relationships at the same time. The fact that humanity is literally threatened, but is also being kind of manipulated in some way by various forces. I think that that's something we can all sort of relate to on a universal human level. And I think that shows like that, whether they know it or not, hit some type of universal chord in us. And then then you add to that like amazing characters, amazing action sequences, the gray area of the world, which is really a lot like real life. I think it really, Attack on Titan, I mean, I know there's been a lot of anime prior to Attack on Titan, but I do think it also did something in the world of anime where it set the stage for different shows like My Hero and Demon Slayer and Chainsaw Man. And so, I don't know. Yeah, that's all I got.
I feel like it's one of those shows where everything came together, like you said, where it's like the story is good, it's relatable, the characters are amazing, the dialogue's amazing, the acting is fantastic in it. Mike did such a good job casting that show.
It matters.
Yeah. The animation, like I remember seeing those like action sequences and the movement sequences when they're swinging around, and it blew my mind. I'd never seen anything like that before. And I think it's rare for everything to come together that well.
Yeah, for every aspect to be that high quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't happen that often.
In any genre, really.
No,
I mean,
totally.
Yeah.
For your various characters, how did those come about? Were they were they already fully sort of formed, or as you sort of encountered it, were you able to sort of add your own spin to it, with Ymir, Gabi? Like, what was that sort of like as far as forming your character?
I mean, when I recorded on season 1, we had no idea where this show was going, where the story was going. The manga wasn't like that far ahead of the show. Right. And so I went into it fairly blind. Like I had no idea what was to come for her. It wasn't until after, we had finished recording and much later on into, season 1 showcasing that fans started coming up to me at conventions and being like, "You want to hear a spoiler?" Blah. I was like, "No, I don't." Oh well,
Too late.
So yeah, it was a pleasant surprise for me to find out her arc.
I think with any character that I've done, as a show goes on and as I do more and more episodes with a certain character, I get to know the character more, and the performance comes more naturally, and I don't have to think as much, like, consciously be like, okay, well, would this character be reacting in this way because of this? It gets to a point where I'm just like, I know her. I know her, I know why she would be reacting this way, etc. But also, one thing I think that's important to note is, generally speaking, when we're dubbing anime and we go in to record for a character for the first time, we're not given any like preparatory material ahead of time. So we generally go in blind unless the show is based on a manga that we've already happened to have read. Because even if, and some actors like to take the time to read the manga of a show that they're in. But a lot of times when we find out that we've been cast in something, it's like then they're asking you to come in to record for the first time the very next day. So you don't exactly have a whole lot of time, even if you wanted to, do research. So when you start out, usually in that first session, you have to rely on the director a lot to guide you, because they generally will know the character better than you will at that point.
Yeah, I don't have a ton more to add, but I wanted to say, and I think Lindsay was sort of getting to this, but it's a very collaborative process at the very beginning, with the director. It's a very director-centric medium in general, I think, because the director is kind of the conductor. They have an idea of how they want that scene to sound. So even though the other actor isn't there, they're directing me, as if the actor was there, So yeah, at the beginning, if there's research out there, if there's stuff out there on a character, now in my career, I didn't do this early on, but now in my career, I will look up stuff and read what I can. If there's a sub-episode, depending on if I have the time, I try to watch it. I didn't do that for Attack on Titan, but, Mike is a consummate director. He's great, and, I trust him fully. So when we're building it, especially with a character like Bertholdt, where, well, all of us really, but like, he becomes something, that I didn't know at the beginning. I did know early on, but not the first couple of times I recorded. So, yeah.
Let's go to our first question over here. Tell us your name and how many Awesome Cons this is, and then hit me with your question. One question at a time. Go ahead.
My name is Paul, and this is my first Awesome Con.
Nice.
Me too.
And my question is, so you kind of answered it, but when you found out all the twists and turns that were going to happen with your characters, how did you react?
I mean, I was really, when I found that out, I was excited. I mean, I knew that it meant what the significance was. I think that's what made me really excited about it. But I was also shocked. I was like, just like everyone else was when all that stuff got revealed. I always joke about the reveal scene. People talk about it a lot, and people are like, it's the best reveal scene in all of anime. And I'm like, I didn't really have to do any acting during that scene because I was, as the actor, was going, really? We're doing this? Like this? This is how we're going to do it? Now? So I was like, all right, well, just record that, and we got it.
I was not excited, but that was because, like I said, I literally went to my very first convention I'd ever been to as a guest, and the second person in my lines came up and just word vomited the spoilers at me.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, no! But then once season 2 actually came along and we got to dig into it, it was so fascinating and so fun to kind of the motivations of the characters in this show are so weird and complex and juicy. So much fun to explore as an actor.
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the things that sets this show apart is that all of the characters have so many layers to them, just like real people. And I think that that's really rare to find a show with that many characters like that. So I definitely went in blind with Gabi as far as who the character was and what she was about, because I had not and still have not read the manga, and nobody spoiled anything for me. I was lucky in that regard, and so every session I would have to record for an episode, it was a very exciting time for every session because there was always something, crazy or exciting happening. And I think every session I'd be like, what? Oh my God! When we'd be, because we watched the scenes in Japanese first before then we record them in English. And I know it was exciting for the director, Mike, as well, he was like, oh, just wait till you see this, and he'd, play the scene for me, and he couldn't wait to see my reaction. So, yeah, that was
awesome.
Part
Thanks,
of it was
guys.
really fun.
Hi, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Jeff. This is my 7th Awesome Con.
Dang.
Anyways, my question is about Eren Yeager. I kind of thought that he was a good guy. At least he started as a good guy, and then further along, it's like, what happened to him? I'm just confused.
Is there a question in there? You're just generally confused.
Yeah, generally confused about is Eren the bad guy now, or is he what's going on?
That's the whole thing with the show.
I know.
It's like real people. It's not, we're not that simple, right? Where it's generally speaking, people aren't just good or bad. We're complicated.
And good or bad changes depending on where you're sitting in the room,
Yeah, and what part of life you're in and what your current circumstances are, and who you're asking.
And you never know how your journey is going to shape you, right? So, I mean, Aaron, he started one way. He's always been, though, I would say, even from the first episode, a pretty vocal and extreme character, meaning extreme in his opinions and thoughts, strong one way or the other. And, that can lead to...
extremism?
Yeah, I mean, no matter where, however the journey has shaped you, did things happen the way you wanted? Did they not? Did you get what you think you wanted? It can affect you. So I know that, there's some questionable things happening right now, but I don't think it's as easy to say he's a villain now, or he's still the old Aaron, it's going to change. We'll see,
And I love that so much about the show. The gray areas, I love that.
Well, the best shows keep you guessing, and there's nothing worse than predictability, and so I think it's a great thing.
Yeah,
so,
great.
Thank you for your question. I'm sorry you're confused, but hang in there. So, all right, over here.
Yeah, hi. So, confession, I'm only like a passive anime watcher, but what I have seen, I see these tropes that keep coming up, and I wanted to ask you about like the origin of one. So like a character will receive some kind of revelation, and it does not matter how shocking or not shocking this revelation is, invariably their response is this noise, this sort of like this, and
Good job.
Pretty good, yeah.
Good job. Not everybody can do that.
Yeah.
It's an anime-specific thing.
I know, and I'm not sure if it's like because a lot of it's translated from Japanese, so like that kind of helps. I don't know if the sentence structure is very different.
So maybe speak about the idiosyncrasies of translating and bringing some of both Japanese, but then also, infusing it with sort of Western, culture. Like, what's that like? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can't speak officially. I have no idea what the official reason is for the noise. But think about this. I will say, it is do that and then go, it's a heck of a lot easier to go than it is to go,
So it's like a voice acting?
I have no idea, but I'm glad for it because I don't want to continually go.
And I don't know if also your question is not just why is it that noise specifically a lot, or if your question is why do anime characters make a noise so frequently when they're reacting to something? Because that's very much, an anime trope.
Yeah, I think I was getting at that too. You're asking about that specific noise, but is it because you don't see that in other genre of animation, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, every time we record, we watch the Japanese version right before we record. Whether you're doing 3 lines at a time or running 12 lines at a time, you watch that scene. And so, the original creators are the Japanese creator and the Japanese voice actors. And so I think it is a style of anime. It's a storytelling technique to let the viewer know that someone is shocked by that, or they're startled by that, or whatever it is, right? So the challenge for us becomes, they did that in Japanese, and that tracks for what they're used to watching. How do we make that something that can translate to, I guess, a Western viewer? And there's not much more you can do with that than what that is. You know what I mean? So it's just a different way of telling a story, I think, than we see in Western animation.
But like, did they tell you to make that noise? Like,
No,
was there a
generally
first
speaking,
time?
especially for reaction noises, we will hear what they did in the Japanese, and usually will try to make a noise that sounds pretty similar.
Right.
So for that noise you're talking about, we're just essentially trying to
do your version of the Japanese.
imitate what they did in the Japanese. Yeah. And why the Japanese did it, no clue.
And I mean, not every reaction is the same in English, but with that particular one, I've tried doing other things, and it never sounds right.
Right.
Like, I don't know what it is.
Well, unfortunately, our time is about. I don't know where did the time go? I don't know where it went.
Yeah.
What do we have to look forward to? Maybe if it could be Attack on Titan related, or it could be just personal career. Like what's going on for you guys in the near future? Elizabeth, you want to kick us off?
Well, unfortunately, one of the not so fun parts of the job is pretty much everything we do is under NDA until it comes out. So I can't really tell you much about what I'm doing right now, but you can hear me in Honkai Star Rail right now as Natasha, in Tears of the Kingdom as Riju, and not in certain animes anymore because my characters have a tendency to go belly up.
A lot of characters tend to do that in anime. Yeah.
Lindsay, how about you? What's next for you?
Yeah, similarly, I don't know what I'm necessarily allowed to talk about, but I will say that some things that I've been in before that have been at least relatively popular, that they are coming back for additional seasons, or season singular. That's been announced, so that's not like a secret, but because I don't get any insider information. I only know that because it's been announced to the world. But it's I don't know when those things are coming out or when we'll start working on them. But definitely at some point this year, there will be a continuation of several works that I've worked on in the past, and I'm excited about that.
Are you not going to say what they are?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can list them off, but I guess I don't know that I'm allowed to say, like, oh, officially, I'm going to be reprising my role.
Right.
Because technically, I actually that hasn't been established with me yet either. I just assume that as long as it's still Crunchyroll doing it, I don't see why they would be like, let's use someone else.
And David, how about you? What do you have next?
Yeah, same. NDAs, what we're working on now. But I'm the new voice of Ken Masters in Street Fighter 6 that just was released last. Yeah. So thank you. It was amazing. I'm excited. I haven't even played it yet, but I'm excited for that.
I know this is an Attack on Titan panel, but can you Hadouken for us?
Oh my God. No, I'm sorry. God.
But just play and see it. So.
Yes.
And
anyway,
yeah. And all three of you will be here at the show all weekend long on the floor.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so definitely go by, check them out, say hi, take a photo, all that. Jason hopefully will be joining us as well. That's the hope.
We'll be at our tables.
Jason will not be here today, but he will be all day Saturday and Sunday.
All right. Well, hey, as you exit, Crunchyroll is providing these awesome nylon Crunchyroll bags. So definitely grab one of those. Hey, let's thank our guests, David, Lindsay, Elizabeth. Thank you, Attack on Titan. Thank you all. Have an awesome con.
This is Erica Harlicker Stone, and you're watching Fandom Spotlight. Yay! Make sure to like and subscribe. Do it right now. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. I don't know why you aren't doing it. Seriously, I'm gonna keep saying it until you do it. Ugh. Okay, thank you. Yay! Remember to have fun and follow your fandom. Bye!